I need your help, please subscribe my channel. The vase smashed against my cheekbone before my mind even caught up. It wasn't just the sting. It was the silence that followed. Shards of glass sparkled across the wooden floor, glittering like every failed attempt I'd made to stay unseen. Chloe stood above me, chest rising and falling fast. You think people don't notice? She hissed. How you light up when they talk about you at church. You love it, don't you? Her voice quivered, not with remorse but with envy, a feeling I'd recognized all my life. Mom didn't move to help. She leaned on the kitchen counter, arms folded, a faint smirk curling on her lips. Maybe next time, she said. You'll think twice before soaking up every compliment. You always need to be the center of attention. Warm blood slid down my face. I pressed my sleeve against it, tasting iron and dust. My voice barely made a sound. I didn't say anything. Chloe laughed, sharp, bitter, almost childish. Exactly. You never speak. Just stand there and let them worship you. That morning at church, Mrs. Jennings had told me I looked radiant. I'd blushed, murmured a thank you, and that was it. But apparently, that small moment was enough to make my sister boil. When I tried to stand, Dad's voice cut through the air. Sit down. He didn't even glance my way. Eyes fixed on the TV, tone flat but absolute. You girls shame this family. Learn to behave. Behave. That word had chained me since I was 10. I picked up a jagged piece of glass and stared at my reflection. Eyes red, trembling but still mine. Mom turned to Chloe. Go wash up, honey. You've got dinner with Mark's family tonight. Don't look emotional. Then she looked at me. And clean your face before anyone sees what you made her do. What I made her do. In the bathroom, my hands trembled as blood swirled down the sink. For a moment I just watched it, red fading into clear water, and knew they'd never apologize. Not once. That night I wrapped my cheek in gauze and sat on my bed, listening to their laughter drifting up from downstairs. The same laughter they used when they told people we were such a close family. Later, Mom came into my room after Chloe left for her dinner. Next time, try not to provoke her, she said softly, like she was offering advice instead of blame. She's under a lot of stress, and you tend to show off without realizing. I didn't. She lifted a hand. Don't argue. Just understand. Understand. Behave. Apologize. I'd spent my whole life doing all three. The next morning my cheek was swollen, and my voice felt trapped in my throat. Dad looked up once from his paper. You shouldn't have stood there like a queen. Chloe smiled into her cereal bowl. I turned away, poured myself coffee. My hand trembled, but I didn't spill a drop. They thought they'd broken me. But all they'd done was light a fuse, slow, quiet, and unstoppable. When I left that day, pretending to head to work, I already knew. This wouldn't end in apologies. It would end in consequences. I didn't go to work. I walked. My legs ached, my cheek pulsed under the bandage, and every stranger's glance felt like a question I couldn't answer. By the time I reached the park near the church, the benches were already warm from the sun. I sat staring at the chapel across the street. A place meant for peace, now just a stage for humiliation. My phone buzzed again, Chloe's messages. Don't come home tonight. Mom's mad you broke her vase. Her vase. I laughed quietly. It was never about that. It was about control. Everything in that house was part of their theater. Every compliment toward me was a threat to her. Every silence a reason to strike. I scrolled through old photos, family dinners, forced smiles, church picnics. In every shot, I stood a little behind them, slightly out of focus. That had always been my place, background. A soft gust of wind moved through the park, and something inside me shifted too. A calm, almost surgical clarity. If I kept staying quiet, they'd keep writing my story for me. I stood and walked toward the church. Inside, the same people who'd seen me hide behind polite smiles were chatting as if nothing hurt. When they spotted me, the chatter dulled. Mrs. Jennings hurried over. Oh, sweetheart, what happened? She whispered, eyes darting to the bruise under my hair. I fell, I said automatically, the lie I'd practiced for years. But then I stopped. Actually, my sister hit me. Her face froze. Your sister? I nodded. Because someone said something nice about me. A long silence followed. Then she touched my arm gently. Honey, you can't keep living in that house. That sentence stayed with me all day. When I finally went home, the front door was unlocked. It always was. Dad said we had nothing worth stealing. Mom was at the counter chopping vegetables. Chloe lounged on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Neither looked up. Back from your walk? Mom asked flatly. Yeah, I said. Needed some air. Chloe smirked. What's wrong? Compliments run out. Something in me went still. Not fragile, just final. I realized then. They didn't see me as family anymore. I was their mirror and they hated what looked back. That night I packed a small bag, clothes, my work ID, and the tiny cross pendant Grandma had given me. Before she passed, she was the only one who ever called me kind-hearted. When I walked out of that house, Mom's voice echoed down the hallway. Running away again? No, I murmured. Just leaving for good this time. I didn't expect anyone to stop me, and no one did. The following week, I crashed on a friend's couch and picked up extra shifts at the diner to make rent. Every time I saw a family laughing over dinner, a dull ache tugged at me. But beneath it, there was something new: freedom. For once, no one was telling me to sit straight, to behave, to be smaller. Then one afternoon, everything shifted. Chloe walked into the diner. She didn't recognize me right away. My hair was tied back, and I wore the plain black uniform. She looked thinner, worn down. When our eyes met, her smile faltered. You work here? She asked. I nodded. Yeah, and I'm good at it. She hesitated. Mom's sick. Dad's stressed. They keep fighting. You should come home. I almost laughed. You mean you need help holding the house together? Her silence said everything. That's when it finally clicked. The breaking point hadn't been the vase. It was realizing that they only stayed standing as long as someone was there to absorb their cruelty. And I wasn't volunteering anymore. Tell Dad I'm too busy shining, I said quietly. Her eyes widened, and she left without another word. When the door closed behind her, I exhaled for the first time in years. It wasn't victory yet, but it was the first real breath of freedom I'd taken in a long time. 3 months went by before I heard from them again. It was a Tuesday night when the call came, the kind that begins polite and ends desperate. Mom's voice on the line sounded fragile, trembling beneath pride. Your father had an accident at the shop, she said. We need help running things until he's better. I didn't answer right away. Around me, dishes clattered and laughter filled the diner. My coworker called out, Order ready, table 4. I smiled calmly. Why are you calling me? Because you're family, she snapped, like it was an unbreakable rule. I let out a quiet laugh. No, Mom. I was staff. Silence. Then a shaky inhale. Please, we can't do this without you. You managed fine when I was bleeding in the bathroom, I said, then hung up. Their voices lingered, but for the first time, thinking of them didn't hurt. It just felt clear. I'd spent too many years living as the shadow to their light. And now that their light had burned out, they were the ones stumbling in the dark. Still, I went back, not to help, but to close the chapter. The house looked smaller than I remembered, the paint peeling, the air stale. Chloe opened the door, her eyes wide like she'd seen a ghost. You came. I wanted to see the kingdom, I said. It's quieter now. She swallowed hard. The living room was a wreck. Bills piled up, TV dark, dust everywhere. Dad sat in a chair, leg in a brace. He looked older, weaker. Mom hovered by the window, her eyes red. When Dad saw me, his jaw tightened. You're still working that job? I'm managing the place now, I replied. Got promoted after the owner retired. Chloe's head snapped toward me. Manager. Yeah, I said. Turns out I didn't need family to get ahead. Dad's knuckles went white on the armrests. You think you're better than us now? I tilted my head. No. I just stopped being less. Mom's voice trembled. We're asking for help, not attitude. I asked for help too, I said softly, stepping closer. When I was bleeding on the floor. When you called it my fault. When you told me to hide my face because I made your favorite daughter look bad. She looked down, something flickering, guilt, maybe fear. I'm not coming back, I said. But I brought something. I pulled an envelope from my bag. Thick with documents. Mom grabbed it quickly, desperate, but her face froze when she looked inside. The papers were copies of the repossession notice, the business license for Dad's shop, seized for unpaid taxes. I'd found the warnings weeks ago while processing forms at work. I could have told them. I didn't. You could have saved us, Dad growled, voice trembling. I could have, I said. Just like you could have saved me. I turned to leave. Chloe's voice cracked behind me. You're just like them. I stopped at the door. No. I learned from them. Sometimes the only way to make people understand is to let them feel what they made you feel. Outside, the air felt lighter. For so long I thought revenge meant shouting, proving, exposing. But standing there, hearing their silence echo behind me, that was louder than any scream. I walked away from that house and didn't look back. Weeks later, the diner got busier. People started calling it the friendliest spot in town. I hung a small white ceramic vase by the window, filled with wildflowers. Every morning, sunlight hit it just right. It reminded me that broken glass still catches light, just not the kind my family ever gave me.